VJ, if you don't break this damn door, I'll turn this room into a toilet. Oh, how it hurts. I closed my eyes. Right now I'll humiliate myself in front of my boyfriend, and he surely breaks up with me. And we've only started dating. Hi, I'm Vivian. The prom is coming, but I still don't have a couple, and this is killing me. Will I stay alone and hate my school album for eternity? I'm looking at evening dresses now, and I wanna howl. Suddenly someone touched me with their shoulder. I turned and saw Vijay, the guy from another class whom I'd liked for long. What are you doing here? He said he came to buy a suit and asked me to help him. Sure, gladly. We'd found the suit for Vijay soon, but the dress for me was another story. I've tried a load of them and nothing fitted. But then I put a golden dress on and came out to Vijay. He literally froze and whispered I looked stunning. Then he came very close, looked in my eyes intensely and embraced me, whispering to my ear he'd always dreamed of such a girl. I nearly fell in shock, but instead I was all over him in happiness. After the lessons, Vijay waited for me to share some incredible news. We were going to have the prom party in a rented mansion. Wow, what a chance to get closer to him. I can't wait. We arrived in the evening. I never thought the mansion was in such backwoods. There even was no phone reception. But Vijay said it would all be fine. A bus would come in the morning and take us all home. It was so beautiful inside and loads of food waiting for us. Wow! Suddenly I spotted a newspaper on a coffee table. I took it, read the front page title and gasped. Look, folks! Someone finished off a group of students celebrating their college graduation in a rural house. The police offered a reward for help in solving this dreadful crime. I dropped the newspaper in horror. Guys, let's get out of here. Vijay came to me, embraced me and said there was nothing to worry about. This newspaper's like a year old and the maniac is arrested long ago. Guys shouted I was a coward and switched the music on loudly. Time for fun. Soon, I calmed down and forgot about the newspaper. We danced and played Mafia. I'd never laughed so much. Then guys suggested we played hide and seek. And I whispered to Vijay I wanted to hide with him in a place where no one would find us. But damn, Jack heard this, and in a moment guys were carrying us to a room upstairs. They shouted, "Have some space, lovebirds," and locked us up. Vijay said he was glad to be alone with me. He was tired of the noise and wanted to sit in silence. We were chatting and heard shouts from below. Good they don't remember us. But several hours passed and I felt I needed the toilet. Now that's not funny. The music was blasting and no one heard my pleas to let us out. Suddenly the music switched off and I started shouting even louder. Guys, I feel really bad. Open the door. No one reacted. Vijay, if you don't break this damn door, I'll turn this room into a toilet. He started picking the lock with a screwdriver. I closed my eyes. I can't wait anymore. One more second and I humiliate myself in front of my boyfriend. But then the door opened. I rushed into the corridor and in a second I was in the toilet. Oh, what a relief. Oh. Well, I will punch them now. How could they be so cruel? Vijay suddenly hushed. Listen, it's strangely quiet in the house. True. We need to go downstairs. The folks must have gone outside. We tried the door by the stairs, but it was locked. What the hell is happening here? Vijay suggested we jumped from the window. You mad? I'm not gonna dirty my outfit. Then he ripped the curtains and bound them together so we could go down. Yeah, this is definitely a prom I'll remember for sure. There was no one outside, so they must be inside. I pulled the door, but it didn't open. It was locked. Then Vijay lifted a window and got inside. Where are you? Open it already. The door opened and I saw Vijay was devastated. What's the matter, V? I went inside and gasped. It was a mess. The furniture partly broken, but most importantly, a brown stained jacket was lying on the floor. That was Jack's thing. I gasped for air and could barely understand where I was. Vijay said the guys were just having fun of us, trying to make the prom unforgettable. I nodded reluctantly and we started searching for them. Suddenly I tripped on something heavy. I looked down and screamed. There was an axe stained in brown, just as the jacket. I stared at Vijay. A massacre has happened here, and to make matters worse, the maniac is still in the house, as the door was locked from the inside. Vijay shrugged it off and said I was too impressionable. Just why are you so stubborn? Stay as you wish, but I'm getting out of here. Just as I turned, we heard a long groan. Who's there? Vijay followed the sound and I followed him, but there was no one. The groan grew louder and louder. How scary, oh my goodness! And then we saw Jack on the floor. He was holding his belly and writhed in pain. I rushed to him. Jack, what's happened? His eyes rolled and he said hoarsely, "Leave, or he will kill you too." We rushed to the door, but it was locked. Oh no! Everything was blurry. We didn't know where to hide, and Vijay dragged me upstairs to that exact room. Suddenly we heard footsteps. They came closer and closer. They're here already. Something sharp scraped on the door in silence. Game over. I hugged Vijay. Goodbye, my love. The door opened and I closed my eyes in fear. Surprise! I heard. What? Guys were laughing their heads off in the doorway. Is that a prank? Oh, you jerks! We nearly died in fear. Someone shouted, "It's dawning, let's go outside." I was still mad at the guys. What a mind you need to think this out. Stop, where is Jack? Vijay pulled the door, but it didn't open. Enough, that's overkill. Someone started scraping the door with something sharp from the other side. Someone screamed behind me, and suddenly the lights died. Like the story? Your like and comment are very welcome. Support our channel.
I came out of the psychologist's office with some pills in my hands. I was told it would help, but I felt nothing but despair. How could drugs bring back the meaning of life? Just recently I was fired and my girlfriend left me for another guy. I had nothing to live for anymore. I left the office and immediately threw the prescription and pills in the trash. I had only one choice left. I resolutely opened the window and looked down. It was so high. I thought for a moment, but I had nothing to lose. I stood on the windowsill and was about to jump when someone grabbed my arm and dragged me down the corridor. There were some nurses. "Hey, let me go!" I tried to pull away. One of them had a handkerchief put in my face and my vision went dark, and after just a few seconds, I blacked out. I woke up in a terrible room in a padded cell. Was this a mental hospital? I tried to get up, but I was tied to a chair. What was going on? Then the three nurses came out of the darkness. One of them was a beauty who looked like an actress. The second had round glasses like a nerd. And the third had fiery red hair. In my mind, I started calling them Beauty, Nerdy, and Redhead. They calmly explained that they had overheard my conversation with a psychologist. I was perfect for the experiment. I didn't understand anything. They had tied me up and now they were smiling. Their smile sent shivers down my spine. I immediately ordered them to untie me, but the nurses began to chirp sweetly that they had a method for returning the meaning of life. If the experiment worked, we would save all of the humanity from depression. There was only one condition: to stay in this room for 3 days. I got it. They were nuts, but they snapped. Either 3 days here or in an asylum. I had no choice. I even pretended to be grateful for their treatment. If only they would leave as soon as possible, and I got out of here. Then the girls parted. Behind them was a large monitor on which I saw myself live. The experiment would be watched by millions of viewers, they said. Was this a reality show? They should be locked up in an asylum, not me. I was okay with the treatment, but the show, it was just too much. I tried to pull away, but the knots were too tight. Suddenly, one of the nurses' phones rang and they were going to work. "Yo, untie me at least!" Redhead came up to me, pulled gently on the rope, and the knot was untied. She winked at me. "Don't be bored. We'll be back soon." As soon as they left, I started looking around. There was only one way out, the door. The rest of the room was covered with cameras, and the monitor glared at me from the wall. I went over to it and saw that there was a chat box down below where people were discussing me and liking me. I didn't understand how this was supposed to give me back the meaning of life. What if they wanted to kill me for the public's pleasure? I needed to get out of here. I tried to break down the door, but as soon as I touched it, I was electrocuted. I'll be curling up on the floor in tremendous pain. When I came to my senses, I saw hundreds of enthusiastic comments. Do you like it then when a person is in pain? And then it hit me. I had to first of all please the public, then the nasty nurses will let me go. All day I wandered in this room alone, my mind filled with memories of the past. I worked as a banker. I had enough money for myself and my girlfriend, but suddenly our staff was reduced and I was left without a job. As soon as the money ran out, my girlfriend left me. Life lost its meaning and I decided to go to the doctor. But if I knew how it would turn out, I would have just stayed at home. The slam of the door snapped me out of my reverie. One of the nurses came to see me. Beauty. She was wearing a gorgeous dress, and there was a box in her hands from which she began to take out candles, dinner, and wine. What's happening though? Is she hitting on me? Suddenly, the nurse approached the camera and said, "Dear friends, the experiment has begun. Before your eyes, we will give you this guy back his meaning of life." Beauty sat down at the table next to me and began to ask me about my past and about my relationship. I didn't want to talk about it, but then I noticed that she was twirling her hair with her finger. Was she flirting? It looked like they had decided to hit on me to make me forget my girlfriend who left me. You thought I'd buy that damn dinner and her outfit? I ignored the nurse's stupid questions until the last minute, and she acted like the conversation was going great. What nonsense! I got tired of listening to her chatter, and I put my dinner plate aside. I won't eat anything until you release me. But Beauty only laughed horribly. What's so funny? She said I wouldn't be released for the next 3 days anyway. If I didn't want to eat, that was my right. I defiantly threw the plate on the floor, hitting the candle, but it fell on the tablecloth and it caught fire. In an instant, the table was engulfed in flames. Beauty jumped up in horror. Immediately, the door opened and Nerdy ran into us in a panic. They were nervously trying to put out the fire. This was my chance. The door was open! In the confusion, I got up from the table and went to the exit, but Beauty noticed that I was about to leave. Heck, I took off and ran to the exit, but at that moment, Redhead appeared in the hallway. 2 nurses standing behind her, looking like bouncers in a nightclub. I tried to pull away, but the bouncers grabbed me tightly. Redhead grinned. "How far are you going?" And then she reminded me, if you don't want to participate, an asylum is waiting for you, but they will quickly return the meaning of life. She ran her hand gently over my cheek. "Get your hands off me." I couldn't handle these big guys, so I had to go back into the room. The nurses put the fire out and hurriedly left, slamming the door behind them. I had spent the whole day bored out of my mind when I heard the nurses talking behind the wall. I leaned my ear against the wall and listened to them talking in whispers outside that very door. Beauty noted that at that moment when I started the fire, the number of viewers doubled. They were very happy. The more viewers, the more money they would get. So they also earned money from me? I wanted to smash the monitor and hit it with all my strength, but it was shockproof. I pounded on the monitor for a few minutes until I noticed the comments. People admired me so much. I read hundreds of comments in my support. They loved me. If it wasn't for me, there wouldn't be any hits. And then it dawned on me. People like my outrage. Good. Then tomorrow, I would surprise them with even more. These nurses were going to regret choosing me for their shitty experiment. The next day, Nerdy came into my room. She had paints and brushes in her hands. The nurses brought a huge easel into the room. I would draw you something. The nurse asked me to draw a still life, and along the way, she talked to me about art. I was very polite and actively engaged in the dialogue. I could see in her eyes that she was proud of herself. Well, now you'll see what I'll draw. Done. Only it was not a still life, but a cartoon in which I depicted the nurse as a complete freak. When she saw the scarecrow with a huge nose I painted, her joy was gone. The nurse started crying and ran away, covering her face. I showed my creation to the camera and saw on the monitor positive comments. I was going to be a star at this rate. Even though I was trapped, I felt much better. With the third nurse, I decided to pretend to be in love so that I would definitely be released at the end of this stupid experiment. In the evening, Redhead came to me. Unlike the others, she had nothing with her. I wonder what they had come up with this time. Redhead said the nurses were upset after my antics and she decided not to flirt with me in any way, but just to play charades because she was bored. I never expected this. We played for a few hours and again I masterfully pretended to be interested. I jumped and made faces, showing animals. But I had to admit that it was easy for me to pretend with Redhead. She was the most sincere of all. She joked a lot. We really seemed to be having fun. When Redhead wanted to leave, I asked her to come back tomorrow and have a normal date. I said I liked it. Redhead was embarrassed and left. I immediately ran to watch the monitor. I knew that the audience would like how I played the lover. The ratings soared to the skies. The audience asked to kiss her tomorrow. Well, if you want, I'll do it. The next day, Redhead came in a beautiful dress. I think she liked me too. She said her name was Susan. We chatted and laughed for a long time. All I had to do was kiss her and pretend that the experiment was a success. The meaning of life had returned, and I could finally get myself out of here. I went to kiss her. At that moment, my heart fluttered, and I was acting so well that for a second, I thought I was in love. But then, two of the nurses ran into the room. What were they doing here? They congratulated me that everything went according to their plan. They gave me meaning back, because I fell in love with Susan. How naive. You think they'd care about my life, not the money from the life. I stood up proudly and declared that the meaning of life had really returned to me. Not because I fell in love with Susan, because I liked being the star of their blog. The nurses looked at each other in shock. Of course, they did not expect such a turn. Eat it. I've been playing along with you all this time. They came at me menacingly. What will you do to me, huh? We're live. I pushed past the nurses and headed for the exit. 3 days had passed. I was leaving. I announced that I would now open my channel and turn to face the camera. Guys, thank you for these days. Subscribe to my channel and you can unsubscribe from these manipulators. Since then, I am one of the most popular bloggers in the country. Thanks to this story, I realized if it seems that everything is bad and there is no way out, do not despair. After all, life is about change, and after the rain, the sun always shines.